This is Golf with Jay Delsing. A two-time All-American at UCLA. Competed in nearly 700 PGA Tour events, 7 professional wins to his credit. Over 30 years of professional golf experience. A member of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame and the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Hey, welcome into Golf with Jay Delsing. I'm your host, Jay. I'm coming to you from the Car Shield Studios, and I am sitting down, oh my gosh, one of my favorite people in the entire world, Kevin Schaeffer. He's the director of golf at Annbriar, and he brought his head superintendent, Justin Wrench, with him, and we are going to give you everything you need to know about spring golf and getting the golf course ready. Boys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be part of it.
Happy to be here.
All right, so where are we going to start? Because, guys, we've been stuck inside all winter long. The weather starts getting good. And, Justin, I'll start with you, buddy. The golf course, I mean, half the time when the weather turns, we don't even have grass growing, do we? It's just like people expect the golf course to be here, and we're there.
No, that's right. Especially in the, in the armpit of the country. You're going from, last summer into leaf crunching season in the fall time, and then you start to get into the winter where you still have play some days if it's above freezing and you don't have snow on the course. But then you get to February, you get that 50-degree day, and you have folks all over the place running around. And like I said, those are, I'd say March through Father's Day, those are some crazy conditions to meet as far as getting the course ready for play coming out of the winter time. Sometimes you're dry, sometimes you're a cedar swamp out there. It's a whole mixture of everything. So,
well, and then Kev, all of this place got to run through your office and the golf shop and everything. So you're part of the whole thing as well.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And the key thing, Jay, is and Justin and I, the golf shop and turf department have to work hand in hand, day in and day out. And you got to have a good working relationship. And we have an unbelievable working relationship with those guys. We're helping them out. They're helping us out. We're always in constant contact with them on what's going on. What do they need from us? And then in return, what do they need from us? So if you're not working hand in hand with your superintendent, then you're going to be behind the 8 ball all year.
Oh, yeah. So, guys, take us through. I'm going to just turn it over to you guys. You guys jump us in. So we're right around the 1st of April, and we're getting more good days than bad. We know we're still going to get some cold, but what's it like? I mean, every day's got to be a new adventure.
I'm going to let Justin start with that, with his day, because he starts earlier than we do. So I'm going to let Justin jump in on that.
Yeah, the big thing once you start to get towards the end of March, beginning April, you're trying to get your, if you have contractors lined up for aerification or other on-course projects before you start to get into the summertime, that's one thing. So you've got outside work that you're trying to work with Mother Nature as well, obviously. Then you're starting to hire your crew for the year. And then you're also doing a lot of chemical applications from, like I said earlier, like April through Father's Day. You're doing a lot of those cultural practices across the course so that you can set yourself up for a successful season. So between staff and contractors and then Mother Nature, as well as your chemical applications and then your daily maintenance practices, plus the, plus all of your golfers running around the property, that's a mixed bags, and like Kevin said, you gotta talk to the pro shop and be in touch with them. And then vice versa too. So,
well, it's a lot, Justin, right? Because these chemicals are not. We don't want a whole lot of people getting subjected to a lot of the chemicals that we got to put on the ground to keep stuff growing, to keep stuff right.
Oh no, absolutely. You got to be. Like I said, you got to be ahead of the golfers for any of your applications that you're doing through the springtime. Whether it's a granular or a liquid application, and then. Aside from working with the golfers too, to apply those chemicals out on the course through the springtime and through the summer, you also have to work with whatever hand Mother Nature is going to give you that day. So, if it's raining, you might not be able to do it. Just for example, today, there's warm season fairways and tee boxes, in the St. Louis area. That's usually zoysia grass and Bermuda grass, right? So a common application this time of year for most properties is a large patch application, which is it's called zoysia patch for layman's term, so to speak. But more or less, that's a preventive application that all these superintendents do on their warm season turf in the spring and fall. And it's about that time of year to do it, but we just had an inch of rain yesterday, so the place is a little soft. And then also it's windy as heck today. It's like Hurricane Katrina out there.
So Justin, one of the things that people are forever pissed off about is aerification.
Right.
And it's an absolute must if you're going to have good greens. Can you kind of enlighten us a little bit on that?
Yeah. So if I had to give an elevator speech, if a golfer or if a member, somebody just asked a quick question about what aerification practice was really beneficial for, it's to relieve compaction as well as to have infiltration into your soil profile. So that can be, infiltration for moisture, but also nutrient availability as well as lessening compaction. And then also relieving thatch or organic matter in your putting surfaces as well. So, the end of the day, if you try to grow bent grass on, if you try to grow a bent grass putting green on a concrete pad, it's not going to work out very well. So you have to have a good body and a good profile. And usually Jay, that's usually in the springtime and the fall time for most courses in this area. And it's a few weeks of heartache for several months of, good conditions.
And it's an absolute must. So Justin, what does a typical day look like for you? Because I can't wait to get to Kevin to talk about his days, because they are long and there are curveballs galore. And I know that anytime Mother Nature is in the same sentence, it's a crapshoot.
Hey, Jay, I'm going to jump in real quick before we get away from aerification. Justin, talk a little bit about the different tines, like what you guys use when you aerify. Some people are you going to use the big holes? Are you going to use the small ones? Right. Talk a little bit about what you guys do there for the time factor.
Yeah. So the skinny of it is the larger tine you use is obviously going to cause more surface disruption. And that's based on the amount of amendments you need to do to your soil profile in the spring or fall. So if you really need to get aggressive in the spring, which is a typical practice for us, we'll use a larger tine, which obviously just gets a better channel in there for incorporating sand to relieve organic matter, as well as nutrient availability, and then moisture, as well as, the most important nutrient for a plant is honestly oxygen too. So just getting oxygen down into that root zone. So, in the spring we'll get aggressive with a larger tine. In the fall time, we'll kind of do something that's somewhere in between. And then, those dog days of summer where it's hot and humid, and you've just had some rains or what have you. And you got those hot nights too. We'll start to use a smaller tine in the springtime, very early in the morning. A common term for that would be venting, where you just have little pencil-sized tines disrupting the surface that don't affect play, but they help that root zone breathe, for the next few weeks to survive summer.
Justin Wrench is the head superintendent at Annbriar, along with director of golf Kevin Schaeffer, and we're talking about the different things that these guys handle for us, so that when we show up to play golf, that everything is nice. So that those aerifications and the different tine sizes you guys is relatively new, Justin, in the last 10 or 15 years, isn't it?
Well, I'd say back in the late 90s, early 2000s, mixing up your tine depths and also the length at which you're going to be aerating into the hole, so the depth and diameter, that's been around for, I'd say, since the early 2000s in most golf practices. But another common practice too, aside from aerification, is, some folks will just do aggressive verticuttings in the springtime, which is more or less that's slicing the surface open to remove a little bit of thatch. Like you kind of imagine a tiller that works above the surface and just minimally slices that turf. That's also a similar cultural practice in the spring and fall time. But tine depth as well as tine diameter, that varies from place to place based on your needs, the time of year, as well as what your what your goals are, and then what your membership can, membership or ownership is also going to find acceptable.
So, guys, what does something like that cost? I mean, people have no idea of the cost of chemicals, the cost of maintaining a property. How many acres do you have, Justin, at Annbriar?
So in total, we have a 220 acre property. Now, 60 acres of that is native grass, which, a lot of folks see our native berms out here and they think, okay, not much maintenance required for it. There is maintenance required for those native grasses as well. But all in all, we have 220 acres of property that's maintained.
And so you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars to just get some of this, just even the basic fundamental stuff that the golf course wouldn't even be alive without.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and as Kevin's aware, it's, tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars that go towards a maintenance budget, whether it's clubhouse operations as well as down in the maintenance department. So yeah, it's a full on assault, so to speak, for the amount of financial resources as well as having good people on your team that go into maintaining the property.
Hey, Kev, that's why we've seen over the years where a new group will come in or something and they're trying to, they'll go in and slash the budget. And it's almost like cutting your head off to spite your face, because now all of a sudden a golf course in a condition goes down, and then all you do is hear it from all the people that walk through the door.
Exactly. And, my job here is so easy. I tell everybody I've got the best job in the gateway section. And you know why that is? The man sitting to my right. The golf course is perfect. And every time somebody walks in that door, whether it's before the round or after the round, it's such a treat to play Annbriar Golf Course. The course is in such great shape. I said, well, the guys in the turf department are the best. And I said, that's where it starts. So kudos to Justin and his staff and everybody down there. All the way to the mechanic. I mean, it's a full team effort. If the equipment's not running right, then they can't do their job in the golf course. Condition deteriorates, so forth and so on. So they have the best team down there, and it's just a really neat thing we have here at Annbriar. And Jay, one thing I want to talk about too is, while we're on the aerification topic, not to backtrack, but on the people, one of the questions we get in the golf shop is, you guys are pulling material out of the green, to aerify, but then you're pouring all this sand back on the green, called top dressing, and then they brush that in. Why are they pouring all this sand? I'm going to let Justin kind of talk about that for a minute. I think that's an important process of the aerification.
No, absolutely. When we pull material out of the putting greens during aerification, so I guess to kind of start, you can do one thing called a solid tine, or you can do a core aerification, right? So core aerification is what Kevin's referring to, where you remove material out of the putting surface. And then a deep tine is where you are more or less just creating a channel for that root zone, and also to incorporate sand into that profile without removing any material. So those are kind of the two methods of aerification at the base. But referencing the topic of top dressing or incorporating sand during aerification, it goes back to that compaction and thatch and organic matter. At the end of the day, if you want healthy, firm, fast, smooth putting surfaces, you need to be incorporating that sand at a pretty aggressive level, once or twice a year at least, to continue having those smooth, true conditions. But at the end of the day, healthy, dense, uniform turf that does not have a lot of organic matter or softness to it. And then we'll also top dress once a week as well in the summertime too, which is just a light top dressing in the summertime. That just helps with firmness, as well as thatch that grows during the summer, and then just maintaining those smooth and true conditions.
Well, that's exactly why Annbriar's got the reputation it has for having some of the best greens in the area. And it's really interesting. The best places I've ever played, you guys always have some sort of sand component around the greens. You can see it. That they've used a lot of it when the greens, like you said, Justin, get super fast and super true. It makes it really, really fun to play on.
Oh, absolutely. And, aside from providing good conditions for the golfers as well, it makes our lives a lot easier in the agronomy department. Just being able to remove that organic matter a few times each season, incorporating that sand, doing those weekly top dressings, all of those cultural practices, they have a, yes, they have a purpose for the end user, which is the golfer, of course, but also on the, reference of plant health as well, and long-term sustainability. That's a term we throw around a lot is, how can we be sustainable and consistent on a year in, year out basis? Not trying to focus on, more often than not in agronomy with golf course management, if you make a short-term decision, it will have consequences in the long run.
And Justin, I think it needs to be said, Kev, we talk about this all the time. We're nothing but clay-based soil around here. If you're not breaking that stuff up, man, we got problems.
Oh, absolutely. No, you're 100% right. So on our putting surfaces, being a golf course that was built in the 90s by Dr. Herdzan, we have what we call sand-based California putting greens out here, which is really, that is good for a variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, we also aerify our fairways and our tee boxes, to your point, Jay, which those are native Southern Illinois, St. Louis area clay and limey-based soils. So you get a ton of compaction, a ton of, moisture that holds in those soils through the year and creates disease problems or playability issues. And even though we have sand-based putting greens, folks ask all the time, well, if they're sand-based putting greens, then why do you add sand? The simple answer is, any facility that is 10, 20, 30 years old, over time, that organic matter will be incorporated into your profile. And so you do need to continue to maintain and remove that organic matter for all the reasons that we just mentioned for aerification.
I am visiting with Justin Wrench. He's the head superintendent at Annbriar Golf Course, and also Kevin Schaeffer. He's the director of golf at Annbriar. This is Golf with Jay Delsing. We're coming to you from the Car Shield Studios. We'll be right back with more. This is Jay Delsing, author of the new golf book, You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You. It's an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. Get yours at jdelsinggolf.com. Welcome back to Golf with Jay Delsing. I'm your host, Jay. We're coming to you from the Car Shield Studios. I'm sitting with Kevin and Justin from Annbriar. And guys, we can move on from aerification unless you have anything else to add. But in terms of someone that loves the game and loves to putt, I'm a gigantic supporter and fan of aerification, even though there's some short-term pain there to let them heal. What else do you guys? Where are we going next, Kev? Let's talk a little bit about the golf shop and how you put together kind of the first point of contact for your customers, Kevin. How important that is, because when I go over to Annbriar, man, I'm treated well.
Exactly. And that's very nice to hear, Jay. We appreciate that. So number one, when the customer pulls up in the front of Annbriar at the bag drop, I think it's very important that we have bag service here. Staff to come out, unload your clubs, get them loaded for you. And then that just is going to start your day. Once you do that, you park your car, you come in. We got a fully stocked pro shop, everything you could possibly want. And a friendly, courteous, knowledgeable staff inside that is going to help you with whatever you need. And then from there, you go outside, either that or you head down the hallway to the Smokehouse restaurant, grab you some lunch, grab you some snacks, a couple beverages, and head back out on the course. And then once you get outside, our staff will take care of you from there, get you to the practice tee, get you over to the tee, the putting greens, what have you. It's just the way everything flows. And again, that's our kind of our day, everyday operation. But going back to what Justin said and the working relationship that we have with the agronomy department is they check every morning. They check in with us. Somebody from their team will stop in and say, hey, here's what we got going. You're good to go. There's no frost, we're mowing greens. Give us an extra few minutes, whatever. We always know what they got going. If we need to mow the practice range, we got to close that for a while to pick it and mow it. So we're constantly working with those guys. But getting back to the shop, that kind of like Justin has to get ready for the golf course in the spring. Our preparation for the springtime now actually starts in the fall of the previous year. So any of the apparel that we are buying, any of your pre-books with your reps, Callaway Golf, Adidas, any of those companies that you're going to do business with for the next year, you are doing your pre-books in this fall of the previous year. And then come, February, March, you're starting to get your shipments in. Hopefully by April 1, you're ready to rock and roll. Your leagues start up, customers are coming in, and you're starting the selling process.
Well, yeah, because you have to stay ahead of the seasons, right? I mean, you got to get your spring stuff in, and that has to be ordered two seasons ahead. I mean, you're ordering the spring stuff in fall, and winter's in between then and now.
Absolutely, and then like I said, we're already doing pre-books now for fall. So I mean, we're looking at fall stuff now, and then come September, we'll be doing spring of 2027. So you're always got to stay one step ahead. And I do want to make one note. So people that are golfers, and as you call me, I'm a lifer, a golf lifer. There is so many changes that have happened in the last, say, 10 years to golf, with the amount of SKUs and the number of golf balls that are made, the different types of clubs that are made, like Callaway Golf, for instance. I mean, you got so many different for ladies, seniors, juniors, men. There's so many different options. Before, years ago, you just ordered a couple sets of clubs. There was maybe one or two SKUs of Titleist, Callaway, whatever type of ball you have. Now there's so many different SKUs that you got to cover for those players. So your inventory levels go up. So it's a juggling act in there, if you know what I mean.
Kev, I'm so glad you brought that up, especially about the golf ball, because when we were kids, Titleist was it. I mean, Titleist probably had 80% of the golf ball market in the green grass, stores. And then obviously Callaway never existed. Maybe Pro Staff. Remember, there'd be a Pro Staff ball. But for the most part, I mean, the way we grew up, we played whatever we found. But when people were buying, it was a Titleist, or it was basically nothing back in the day.
Correct. And now you've got Bridgestone, Callaway, Srixon, Titleist. You've got all these different balls. And the ball manufacturers, whether you're at the big box store or you're in a green grass facility where we have fitting days, they'll do, now the new thing is ball fittings. So not only do you have club fittings, but you have ball fittings, which is extremely helpful to the consumer on what golf ball they should play. Because as you know, 90% of the players don't play the right golf ball. They see that the Pro V1, Pro V1X, or Chrome Tour X, that may not be the ball for them. That's why I think ball fittings are very important. And asking your PGA golf professional at your facility where you play, what ball is the correct ball for me?
Yeah, nobody talks about that. I'm so glad you brought that up. We could do an entire show on that, because marketing is a wonderful thing for some of these companies, because people have something locked in their mind, but they couldn't be farther from. They're not getting the benefit from those high performance golf balls, Kev, because they don't have the speed.
Correct. Absolutely. And it's the same thing we see on fitting days, Jay. They'll come in, they come up to the tee. I want a 9-degree extra stiff driver. Now, wait a minute. That may be correct and that may not be. But let's go through the fitting process. And then when you actually get them fit, they see numbers on TrackMan or Quad Pro, whatever it is. They see the numbers and they're like, why hit this way better? Exactly. It's not what you used to play. Let's take a look at where you're going now and see what the way technology is. What is the correct, proper way to fit and get them into the right product?
Kevin Schaeffer and Justin Wrench are my guests. They are a team over at Annbriar, and we are talking all sorts of stuff about spring golf. Guys, one of the things that I love is when you get a golf group of guys and one of the guys gets a driver that he crushes. So his buddy says to him, let me hit that. And he hits one good one and then orders it. When it comes in, guys, the ball goes straight sideways because he didn't get fitted. He just got exactly what his friend got. Getting fitted is a game changer for people if they really want to enjoy the game more.
Absolutely. And you know, Jay, the thing is with what equipment costs nowadays, you know, drivers, irons, wedges, balls, you're spending this amount of money. Let's get the right equipment in your hands. Let's not make this a guessing game. You know, to go in and buy a set of clubs off the shelf, that absolutely kills me. You know, let's take the 45 minutes to an hour, run the fitting and see where you're at, you know, especially, you know, with clubs, you know, talking about the price of clubs. Back in the day, a really good wedge was, if you had a $90 wedge, man, that was the cream of the crop. You had the best of the best. Now you're $199. So, I mean, get fit. For any product that you buy, get fit.
Here's the other thing, Kevin. These folks need to know that because we're not trying to spend their money. We're trying to help them control it a little bit. When you get fit properly, unless something dramatically has happened to you physically, these clubs are going to work for you for quite a while. You don't need to be flopping every single year and buying a new $800 driver.
No. Once they're built for you, they're going to last a number of years. But if you don't, and the biggest thing I tell people is, Jay, not only is this set of golf clubs going to be fit for you, you're going to enjoy the game a heck of a lot more because your scores are going to go lower because the equipment is built for you. We don't build the equipment ahead of time. We're building the equipment to fit your golf swing.
Yeah, it's like we don't go out to dinner and order a steak and have it sitting there on the shelf for 2 weeks. We cook it to order. So, you know, Kev, this is the other thing that people, the whole fitting process seems like it's newish in the last 2 or 3 years. But if you look at the way we're all built so differently, it doesn't make any sense for us to play the same stuff.
No. What you play, what I play, what Justin plays, it's going to all vary. And you know, the thing is, when you're talking about fittings, you know, everybody's into these launch monitors now, whether it's TrackMan, Quad Pro, Rapsodo, whatever it is. Everybody is so into numbers, okay? What about ball flight? What's the ball flight look like? You know, and I think it's so important to get fit outdoors at an outdoor range because you can look at all the numbers you want. You can look at launch. You can look at spin, smash factor, all of these numbers, okay? But until you actually see the ball flight, what does it do? To me, that's the most important.
Oh my gosh, Kev, 100%. And I tell my amateur friends, please don't fall into the TrackMan rabbit hole. This thing spews out data points, and I'm like, you only need 2 or 3 of these things to focus on. Let's talk about the club face and the ball. Let's just focus on that for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. And so many people, well, what about my angle of attack? Am I outside in? Whatever. Are we going to try to correct that in a 45-minute fitting? No, we're there to fit the clubs to you. So if it's something that you want to work on, please don't try to do that during a fitting. Work with your PGA professional before that. Then let's go through the fitting process.
Guys, talk a little bit about, this is really, I think, interesting, especially where we live in the Midwest. We have so many Monday events. You know, back when I was a kid, Monday was the day the course got to rest. And Justin, you had your entire staff all over the property doing stuff and things like that. Nowadays, and I mean, they're great. We're raising money for sick kids. We're raising money for hospitals and things like that. But it's really super challenging for the golf staff to try to coordinate all this stuff and not have really a day to take and recover.
And I'm going to jump in, Jay, real quick before Justin. And this is kudos to those guys. So we don't close. We're open 7 days, okay? So we're not like the private clubs where they have a day of rest where the guys can come out and do whatever they do.
Wow.
These guys, Justin and his crew, they're working amongst golfers 7 days a week. Okay. So that in itself is a major task to me. What they get done with the amount of play that we have is tremendous. Working around golfers, trying to, fix irrigation breaks, whatever they have to do to try to get things tidied up during the day. Just doing that in itself. But let's talk about those Monday events for a minute. So before COVID, okay, and I think you and I had this conversation before. Before COVID, Monday outings and tournaments in general, whether it was on a Monday, Friday, Wednesday, whatever it was, Saturdays, you wanted to book as many as you could possibly get, okay? That's prior to COVID. Once COVID came around and tournaments were no longer, and it was just your open tee sheets, golf professionals across the country and superintendents realized golf tournaments may not always be the best thing from a monetary standpoint, okay? So you're making more at your facility, whether, if it's a private club or public facility, resort, what have you, you're going to make more on a day where you just have an open tee sheet than you would if you host some type of charity event or foundation event or what have you. Now, I'm not saying get rid of all your charity events. You got to pick and choose. But the events that are smaller, your 40, 60 person events where you have to block, some tee times in the morning, then you got a shotgun in, you got to block more in the afternoon, you're losing revenue. Okay. So, and it's also a nightmare for Justin and his guys. Okay. We don't like putting them in that predicament. So, now that COVID has passed, golf is still booming every day. We are, we host a few tournaments. We pick and choose which ones we want. And we host some bigger ones, but those smaller ones, it's just not very beneficial to the bottom line at some facilities.
Oh, I love getting that information. I mean, because we have more of those things in the greater St. Louis area, Kev, than I think any other city in the country.
Probably. We host a lot. There's a lot of golf events around. When we get we can host events. You can still host events at your facility, but maybe we put it on a tee time event instead of a shotgun event where you're having to block the times, and then you have to raise the rate for that charity or foundation because you're blocking so many times. So we work with each one individually. Maybe we put it on a tee time event. There's nothing wrong with that. You're still going to finish it together. And as we know in the golf business, even though we shotgun at, say, 10 a.m., they think everybody gets done at the same time. That doesn't happen. You're still an hour apart from the first group to the last group. So regardless of what time you start, you're still going to have that major gap. So, there's different options, and you just got to look at each one individually.
Kevin Schaeffer and Justin Wrencher, my guest. Kevin, the director of golf, and Justin, the head superintendent at Annbriar. This is Golf with Jay Delsing. We'll be back after this commercial break. A golfing experience of a lifetime. Custom golf trips with me, Jay Delsing. I played on the PGA Tour for over 25 years and had the pleasure of playing the greatest courses in America, and now you can too. Experience courses like Pebble Beach, Wingfoot, Whistling Straits, and many more. Packages include meals, drinks, daily lessons, and tips from me, and much, much more. Book your experience now and email me, jay@jdelsinggolf.com. The golf course is waiting. Welcome back to Golf with Jay Delsing. I'm your host, Jay. I'm with Kevin Schaeffer and Justin Wrench. Kevin is the director of golf at Annbriar. Justin is the head superintendent. And we are giving you kind of a peek behind the curtain of what it takes to get a golf course ready, what it's like to get have the two of these folks work hand in hand. And guys, is there a certain time of year that's tougher than others?
I'll take that one. Usually, kind of to your point, Jay, like the topic of the show from the agronomy side of it, at least, is, those shoulder seasons are, those shoulder seasons of putting the course to bed for the winter, and then also getting ready to go in the springtime from that March through, Father's Day timeframe, give or take, is, those are always the toughest because you don't have a lot of your summertime staff members. Sometimes, sometimes, you're waiting on resources to come in from delivery, contractors, you have weather, and then also, just managing your folks too. And as far as the agronomy department. But, I would say for me, I actually just had this conversation with one of our members this morning. Kind of March through June is always hectic and busy, and you could be out here, as a team 12 hours a day and still not be caught up because Mother Nature has a different plan. You've got folks out on the course, there's a lot of variables in play. And then July and August, you're just trying to maintain and provide those good conditions from all that work you did in the spring to set yourself up for success. And then you get into September, you're still kind of in that Indian summer mode, so to speak. And, transition to that early October, you start mulching leaves and tying off your loose ends and getting your property prepared for wintertime dormancy. And then while you're in that November through March timeframe, you're getting ready for the next year. Earlier how Kevin was referencing getting ready in the clubhouse with their operations, 6, 7, 8 months in advance. You always have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead in the preparation process out on the property as well. So
I'm sure everyone thinks that, it's wintertime and there's nothing to do.
Yeah, that's exactly, for sure. It is a bit more, it's not always a go standpoint in the wintertime, but you are getting ready for the next season, whether that's office work or shop work, projects out on the course that you didn't have time to do in the spring and summertime. That can be drainage or tree work, or you can even, if it's a warm winter, for example, you can also do, sod work for your cool season grasses too. So there's always something, right? There's always something. It might not be as crazy as the summer or springtime, but you still have to stay consistent and be ready to go when that weather breaks in middle of February.
You also have to maintain your equipment. You have to maintain, but you got to maintain your equipment.
Oh, absolutely. We, to Kevin's point, we have a full-time mechanic, phenomenal guy. But without good equipment that's maintained and also, set properly as far as your reel mowers for your fairways, your greens, your tee boxes, rough grass as well for your rotary units. If you don't have good equipment and resources to work with, then you're going to always be behind the 8 ball come summertime. And you'll notice those problems pile up as well through the summer too.
Jay, one of the cool things about, Justin talking about, what they do and all of that. One of the coolest things I think from a golf professional standpoint is, and I want Justin to go through his day from arrival to the end, from starting at their staff meeting in the morning. I think people need to know that because, they think, they just show up and they mow grass. No. So I want Justin to kind of go through what his day is from arrival to the end, if you don't mind, Justin.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Justin, let me just jump in real quickly because when I was a kid, they didn't have walkie-talkies and cell phones to communicate. So I would see my boys sleeping under a tree, on their mower. They'd be taking a little siesta. So please go ahead. We never wanted to wake them up, but we knew where they were most of the time.
Oh, yeah. There's still a little bit of that here and there. No, it's just easy. There's actually technology nowadays with GPS mowers that tracks the location of your equipment across the course. Those are kind of some themes as far as task management software and autonomous tech and lithium. But back to like a day-to-day routine, earlier you said no day is the same, and for the most part, you're 100% right. We come in and we have our lunchroom meeting that begins at 5:30 in the summertime. So we get the day-to-day routine, and now our summertime staff is about 20 to 25 folks. So we have, some of those are full-time, guys. We have several that work in management, and then also a lot of high school and college crew members, as well as some of our older part-time guys that, they maintain our fairways and rough grass for us. So we start our 5:30 lunchtime meeting as far as like, hey, we're in the lunchroom. This is your assignments for the day. We have a job board, digital job board that we converted to a few years ago. And so folks get their assignments and they'll go through the shop and into cold storage to get on their equipment and start their task for the day, whether that's, mowing roughs and fairways, or if you're hand watering greens, or if you're doing a drainage project or a sod project, or if you're spraying. There's so many multitudes of, you here and there assignments. So that's kind of a selling point too for a seasonal crew member. There's not a lot of monotony out here. One day you can be doing, one day you can be doing bunkers, and then the next day you can be laying down several pallets of zoysia sod. So it's just there's a lot of variety if you want to use that as a selling point for being a seasonal crew member on a golf course. So we'll do that, morning time routine from about 5:30 until 11 a.m. And we'll take our, lunch break from 11:15 to noon, give or take. And then after that, we'll kind of finish up in the afternoon. And by that point, to Kevin's point of how busy we are as a facility, and then a lot of facilities in St. Louis, especially since COVID, we'll have a lot of golfers out on the course. So we'll kind of minimize that afternoon routine where several of us will go out to check greens for moisture levels, as well as hand water in any hydrophobic areas or hot spots, dragging hoses to those isolated areas in the afternoon just to maintain and check the greens. And around 2:30 to 3 p.m. is kind of when our day wraps up. We'll set up the job board for the next day and come back and do it all over again. That's the summertime routine.
Justin, what causes a hot spot? Because I see them, I can see, is there something under the ground? Is it just lack of air? What is it?
Well, that's a great question, because like you alluded to, Jay, as far as some hypothetical guess, it's a rabbit hole of answers. Usually it's a multitude of things. It's a variety of compounding factors. Like you said, sometimes it can be airflow. Other times the soil can be porous, back to aerification. If you don't aerify, you're not going to have any sort of porosity or infiltration or oxygen into that root zone. And you're also going to have compacted, thatchy soil, So a lot of times it's a soil-based issue for what causes a hydrophobic spot or a wilt spot. If you've been on those, we've all been on a course in the afternoon and you're looking at these greens turning purple all over the place. And, it's like, man, it looks like Mike Tyson just rolled in, for those putting surfaces, as far as the amount of wilt and dryness that you see across those areas. But the short answer is, usually it's a soil-based issue, but also airflow, plays a big role in it. So.
Gosh, I mean, when I think when Kevin and I were kids and growing up in the game, most of what the guys did, there were chemical applications, but it was a lot of just watering and mowing, and the whole state of agronomy, Justin, has just gone absolutely into an entirely different generation.
Yeah, absolutely. We were kind of talking about some of that autonomous and lithium and GPS technology earlier, but also aside from how we, when we approach things from a chemical or cultural standpoint, our even our agronomic mindset the past 10, 15 years has changed drastically. Like Kevin said, we do 40,000 rounds a year of golf out here, and that's a lot of folks to move through the door on a daily basis. So, at the end of the day, our agronomic mindset is if we have, turf that can maintain from can be maintained from a stressful and tolerant standpoint, we need that turf to stand up to Mother Nature, but also to the amount of golfers. And if we can have turf that can, withstand that amount of stress and that amount of tolerance over time through the season, that's going to give us the results as far as what the end user wants, which is smooth, true, uniform, healthy, and dense playing conditions.
I love it. So, Kev, talk a little bit. I'm with Kevin Schaeffer. He's the director of golf at Annbriar, and Justin Wrench, he is the head superintendent at Annbriar, one of the premier public facilities here in the Midwest. Kev, talk a little bit about how COVID changed everything for golf, and now people are looking at golf as if you look at this game and just look at what kind of revenue you can generate, you're kind of missing it a little bit, aren't you, Kev? There's the public enjoyment, the player experience. I know all that stuff is really important to you.
It is. It's very important. But, Jay, to go to your point on after COVID, when COVID hit, golf was basically the only thing you could do, really. I mean, you're outside. Everybody had, you had a lot of restrictions, but it got a lot of people into the game. Okay. But more so, the things that, and we talk about this amongst fellow golf professionals all the time, when like Top Golf came into play, Simulator golf came into play over the last couple of years. Me personally, I thought, God, this is going to kill the game. You go there, you whack, you're whacking balls as fast as you can, and you're drinking and eating and this, that, and the other. How is that going to be good for the game of golf? Actually, and I'm going to eat my words, that has probably been one of the best things that has happened to the game of golf and simulator golf. Because for the players that have not gotten into the game, that they might have thought this is something that they may want to try, they're playing golf now because they did go to Top Golf or they went to somewhere and they had a simulator. But especially ladies, children that didn't really play, and men as well. Now that they've experienced that, they're playing golf on a regular basis. So every golfer, and especially at the private club and like us here at Annbriar, the public daily fee golf course, that's why our rounds are so high, is because all these people are getting into golf because they got to experience it. And that's why I think COVID was, it was good for the game of golf, bad for a lot, but good for golf because, it got people into the game. And, and it is like, with the Gateway section and the PGA of America. And, I was just talking to Nathan Carnes about this the other day, Vice President of the PGA of America, talking about, PGA Hope, getting veterans into the game, Women's Day in golf. All of that stuff is so important. But all this is really booming after COVID.
Kev, I'm in the same headspace as you where I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to lose people. And it was a short-sighted point of view because we've got now people can go do their sim leagues in the winter. Now people can go get lessons in the winter and work on some different field things and like that with TrackMan and Quad Pros and the great Rapsodo products. And it's just what it's done is it's made our pie bigger now. And now we've got more people coming into the game than ever before. Kev, I never would have thought these numbers were even dreamable in our lifetime.
No, not at all. But what we thought was going to be a negative impact to the game has turned out to be extremely positive.
Yeah.
And I think, too, you look at tour numbers, whether it's Champions, PGA Tour, LPGA, Korn Ferry, whatever it is, look at the numbers of spectators that are going to those events now. It's unbelievable because of people are getting into the game. They know the game. They understand the game. I can't wait to see the numbers coming up this summer at Bell Reef for the BMW. It's going to be unbelievably crowded there because of how many people are into the game.
It's going to be off the charts. In St. Louis and this surrounding area loves their golf and supports their golf. Guys, I can't thank you enough. I so appreciate your time and how generous you are with it. We could fill up 5 shows with this information because I know we're only scratching the surface, but I thank you, Justin and Kevin, for coming on and doing what you're doing. And before we let you go, tell people how they need to get their butts out there and play Annbriar. Annbriar, depending on your skill level, is all you want from the back tees. All any a golfer of any skill level wants from the back tees. But there's all sorts of different decks for everybody to play and enjoy.
Absolutely. And Jay, talking about that, so the back tees, we actually in 2 weeks, we are hosting the Missouri Valley Conference Division I Men's Golf Championship. So Justin is working and his staff is working extremely hard to get the golf course prep for that. But talking about the tees, so we have several sets of tees. We got from every level of play. This golf course is very, very woman friendly. Okay, we get that all the time. So we have a tee for every player, and we take great pride in that.
No, I think what I'm trying to say is that we've got this gem. It's somewhat hidden over on the east side, but it's called Annbriar, and you guys care so deeply about their experience. We need to get out there and play it.
Yes, we do. And and just come see Justin and I. Stop in, say hello. We're glad to see you. We take great pride in Justin takes great pride in his, the golf course and the 220 acres, and I take great pride of what we have inside. So the team that we have here under the direction of Russ Noby and the Noby family, we are very blessed.
And you know what, the golf community is better off having the Noby family on our side and supporting the game and providing like they do too. Guys, thanks so much. We're going to do this again, so don't go hiding on me or anything.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.